Zoom and boom, every pony. It is 7 o'clock on the East Coast, Eastern Time on March 20th, 2018, and we are live. Spiky Dash here with you for episode number 15. Hard to believe I'm up to that already. Of According to, there it is, Spiky Dash. Lot to cover in this episode today. It is, first off, of course, it's Season 8 premiere week. Yes, finally, this Saturday, the 24th, it is premiere day. We've been looking forward to this ever since Season 7 ended of MLPFIM. That, of course, is the kickoff. Lot to discuss. A lot from what I've seen online about Season 8, kind of my own personal wish list of things to come for Season 8 as well. Other things to talk about. I'm going to be talking about my favorite teams. You can probably tell by the jersey. I'm going to talk a little about the Tampa Bay Lightning, about one of their recent moves. March Madness. Going to talk about the craziness that has been the NCAA Tournament of for the opening weekend and the upsets and everything going on with that. Saw a movie recently I'm going to give you a little bit of thoughts about as well. A couple of my other recent things I've done with sports, going to different events, and then one final thing to close with, some more other personal story in my life at the end as well. So, but we have to start, of course, with Season 8. It is premiere week. It is so exciting. And I know that look, guys, I have tried really hard to, after the leak happened and all that noise, I've been trying hard not be spoiled, but it's hard, guys. It's been so hard to not be spoiled with people, posting screenshots to Twitter and, and some other like ink leakings out there. It's hard, okay? It's been hard to not be spoiled for the upcoming season. But I kind of have like a general concept of what the season's going to be about. And again, I'm not really going to mention that on here per se until I read this thing that I found on Equestria Daily. But I guess based on the concept itself, I guess I can say that I guess I can see where it's coming from. I like it in that sense. But it depends on your perspective of it, and that's why every Tuesday at least, and sometimes on Saturdays, I read on Equestria Daily. I read the community soapbox where people submit their ideas and thoughts on the show and different different things, many different opinions about different things in the show, the comics, etc. Well, I came across one of these last Tuesday, and it really made me wonder about what Season 8 holds for us. And I have a personal wish list that I said I'm going to share with you guys. But, from all I've seen thus far, at least enough I've seen, I didn't see anything. Remember, I didn't see anything on the leak, and I said I wasn't until the show premiered. But regarding everything else that I have seen, I don't know. It's tricky. I don't know. To me, what I get out of this that I'm about to share with you guys here from Equestria Daily is that is Season 8 going to have like a dark feel to it? Like that's what I'm getting out of this. Like it's looking like, and maybe this is because I'm reading this as it's taking a dark spin on Season 8, but that's the way this is sounding to me. So I'm going to share this, and because it just jumped out at me when I read this on Equestria Daily. It's from Shadow Rider 45, and it's the real, quote unquote, real importance of the School of Friendship. It says here, Season 8 is going to revolve around the friendship school that Twilight and her friends are going to be teaching the magic of friendship to all sorts of creatures. That seems cool enough. I think that's a nice concept. After we've seen from past seasons, we've seen villains get reformed, and then Starlight was Season 7 where she evolved and grew, and I think that was very cool. And the legends came in at the end, so I think that was neat. So I guess getting others involved, that's a nice way to spin it. But Shadow Rider goes on. While this may seem like another method to continue the show, and it might not sound all that much to some, but I believe the school has a special significance that we're not really seeing. This is where things really get, hyped up here. This is where his opinion, his or her opinion, really kicks into, high gear here. So I believe the school has special significance we're not really seeing. So kind of taking on a different role here. The significance being, so now here she goes and explains the significance of the school of friendship, being the legacy of Twilight and her friends' legacy after they are all gone. That took a dark turn quick. That worries me a bit. Because you would think on the surface this is a great concept, but then you read it from that perspective and it's like, whoa, that kind of hits you in the heart a little bit. At least for me, that kind of puts a different spin on things. Over the past 7 seasons, Twilight and friends have managed to establish relationships with dragons, yaks, hippogriffs, and changelings. And all of that very cool. We get to see more of those worlds that we get, that with Spike being a dragon, and getting to see go to the Dragonlands and Princess Ember and Torch and all that, and Garble and all the dragons, and the yaks with what's his name? What's the head prince's name? I always forget his name. But yeah, from Yaks and hippogriffs, and of course, but we mainly saw that in the movie, and then the changelings, of course, with Thorax and Pharynx and all them. So Prince Rutherford, thank you. I knew I'd get it. So these new relationships have caused great change to Equestria, and it's all thanks to Twilight and her friends, of course, and we've seen that throughout the show. But will these bonds last? That's another very poignant point and question here, Shadow Rider. Very good. Technically, yes, but for how long? We don't know if similar things have been done in Equestria's history, and even if it has, then it's hidden really well or only documented to a certain extent, or what we see in Twilight's books when it's relevant, in the library. So yeah, I guess that's another valid point. The biggest question, or questions, I don't know if he or she is saying question or questions, is will the main 6 be remembered for establishing these bonds? I see the school as the answer, a lasting legacy needed to remember the main 6 for what they've done and continue the bonds they established after they're gone. I mean that's nice and all, but man, that kind of takes on a kind of a turn. So, and that's a great perspective. That's why I love reading those soapbox comments and stuff. But that one really just jumped out at me for some reason. So I don't know. I don't know what it holds for the season to come. I mean, I look forward to every season, to every episode with excitement. What are we going to get? What's the episode going to revolve around? Who writes the episode? If it's Larson, it'll probably be a bad one. I mean, fame and misfortune notwithstanding. I mean, I feel, like something, may come out of that. This concept on the surface, every trailer, teaser, preview I've seen looks great, but there's got to be a twist. I mean, there's got to be something, and maybe it's that perspective that's going to throw it off. I just have a feeling like, something's going to take place that's going to, usurp that or throw that off. So I kind of have a pre-thought wish list. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, oops, I'm thinking of more even as I think about the season. That's what can happen, though. So yeah, with that being said, and we now knowing the concept and how it's gonna, but with potential, but that just seems wow. If that's true, I mean, not saying that it is, it's somebody's opinion, but if it's leaning toward truth, then I don't even know what the future holds. I really don't know, and we can only enjoy it for what it is and take every episode, with a grain of salt and see what's going to happen. So I now have a list, and I just added one. I thought of it. I have a list now of eight things that now I'm kind of have on my wish list for season 8. Surprisingly, eight in season 8. So, and it starts with this whole school of friendship concept is number 1. Again, some having these kind of, dark thoughts about it. What is that going to mean for our main 6? What is that going to mean for the group? I mean, it's definitely an interesting concept, but how is it going to play out? Are there some that are going to be on board right away? Are there some that, aren't? Is someone going to revolt? Is something going to happen? All these thoughts running through my mind on that. What is this concept going to show us here in season 8? Second thing, another thing that I've seen lately, I've seen a lot more picks lately. Sorry, I got NHL tonight on. The Caps are wearing their newer unis. But the second thing, I've seen lately more picks online, and I don't know if it's just because it's repost or what have you, but of Sunset Shimmer in pony form. Will we see it this season? Will we actually see it in the season? Not Equestria Girls related, not any of that. And it's nice we've seen her in that form in some of the episodes. But will we actually see her in the season? I would love to see more of that. I would love to actually see her take on that role in season 8 in some form. Will we see that? I would love to see that. I really, really would. Third thing, when is this revenge going to happen for Queen Chrysalis? She mentioned it way back when at the end of season 6. It didn't happen at all in season 7. So you'd think, because remember, Starlight Glimmer gave her the chance to be reformed like the rest of the changelings, and she said no. She said, that's not me, and I will get my revenge on you, Starlight Glimmer, one day. Hasn't happened yet. So is this the season that it's going to happen? So does she get that revenge? We will see, if that eventually happens in due time. Number 4 on my list, with the Legends ending season 7, what role do they take on now? Will we see them more often, in future episodes? Will we see them, what role do they take on now? And what role does Stygian play now? Remember, he was rescued from the Pony of Shadows. So, what is there a role now for him now somewhere in all of this, or even in this concept? So what role are they going to take on now? I'm sure they'll have something. I'm sure they'll play some part in this season, but what role is that going to be? What other secondary characters that we normally don't see are going to get expanded roles this time around? Last season, we saw more of Princess Ember. We saw more of the Changelings and Thorax. We met his brother Pharynx, and all this. What characters this time around that we would only caught a glimpse of in prior seasons are now going to get bigger roles this time around? So I'm interested to see, who's going to get their own episode or own story this time around as well. Number 6, and I put this on it every single season, Scootaloo's backstory. It has to be addressed at some point. I'm sorry, it has to be. She's the only one now that we still really don't know. I mean, yes, when she made the comment to Rainbow Dash, when Rainbow Dash's parents were there, she said, I never had anyone tell me how great I was or how good I was, and your parents had that. So we know she's, maybe, orphaned in some respects, but there has to be a backstory somewhere. We have to have an episode revolving around Scootaloo. There has to be one at some point. I'm really, really hoping that it's this season. 7, are there more Wonderbolt episodes to come? We occasionally see Wonderbolt episodes. We don't get them very often. So and again, I'd like to learn more about the fleet. We occasionally get an episode where, Thunderlane with Rumble takes center stage, or something like that. Or of course with Rainbow Dash, as their parents are there. When do we get to learn more about Soren or Misty Fly or Fleetfoot or even Captain Spitfire, who we see, but we don't know much about her. So I would like to know more about the other Wonderbolts and their backstories, because I love the Wonderbolts. I'm, as you guys can tell with my Spitfire collections and my Spitfire and Sorens that I have, I'm a diehard fan of the Wonderbolts. So I'd like to know more about their story. And I added this one on because I had a thought about it in my mind when last season we finally learned about Applejack's parents and their backstory and all their history. So now we kind of knew all about the main six's parents. When are we going to hear about Starlight Glimmer's parents? This is something to think about too, because again, maybe that would explain, how Starlight was before she got reformed. It might have had to play a role in it. Maybe it didn't, but are we going to see hers at some point? So that was one I had a thought in my head just thinking about it now. So yeah, those are the 8 currently on my list. I probably won't have any more before the premiere, so that's all I could think of for now. But certainly a lot of questions that I'm hoping get answered this season. I'm really hoping that they do. So very much looking forward to it. The premiere this Saturday morning. Exciting stuff. Really looking forward to that on Saturday. All right, other things going on. Other things besides pony related. As you guys can tell, I'm not wearing my normal Lightning Rainbow Dash shirt. Because today because the Lightning are playing tonight and they've been doing really well lately and they clinched a playoff berth recently. So I'm repping one of my favorite hockey teams that I follow because they're killing it right now. We're first place in the East. We're first playoff team to clinch in the East. So we are looking pretty good. We're playing Toronto tonight. We're hosting them. They did make a trade at the trade deadline that I really, again, on the surface at first, I was not a big fan of. I was very hesitant because last year the Bolts traded away Jonathan Drouin, who I thought was at the peak of his career, for this prospect, Mikhail Sergachev. And on the surface, I was not a big fan of that. It took me a long time to get over that deal. But then Sergachev finally proved that he was more than a prospect a couple weeks in. So actually it didn't take me that long. But this one, though, it still bugs me. It's not as much as it did at first, but it's still kind of on the surface. The Bolts traded Vyacheslav Nemestikov, who I thought was a great player for the Bolts, was playing really well, getting a lot of points, doing some nice things, and they traded him away for 2 guys from the Rangers. And I'm thinking, why the heck are the Bolts trading with the Rangers? They're a bottom feeder in that division. They're not even close to the playoffs. I was stunned. I was disappointed. I didn't understand it. Getting Ryan McDonough and JD Miller. Why are we getting these 2 guys from the Rangers? I didn't understand it. Everyone else was praising the trade. I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. So I was upset. And then it made me more upset that that a certain fan blog of the Bolts, Raw Charge, had the balls to say that, it's nice to see now that a good 27 is actually on the roster, totally bashing Jonathan Drouin. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. That's below the belt. That's far across the line. I don't like that at all. So I actually tweeted to Jonathan Drouin and said, hey, forget what the freaking fan blogs say. I appreciated everything that you did in Tampa, and I appreciate everything that Nemestikov did in Tampa, because they were absolutely doing outstanding. But I will say this, lately over the past couple games, Miller and McDonough have done a better job, at least maybe, and it usually takes teams a couple games to adjust to a new system. And in the last game, I think a couple games ago, Miller had a hat trick, had 3 of the 4 goals. Granted, the Bolts lost the game like 7-4 or something like that. And then McDonough had the other goal. But so they're slowly adjusting. So, you know, they're coming around. I'm still not a huge fan of the deal, but for now, it looks like the risk is paying off. You know, the Lightning are still doing fairly well. There's Vasilevsky's doing a great job in net. There's a lot of guys that are scoring goals. So right now on the surface, it looks like they're doing okay, and it looks like, you know, we got the playoff berth out of the way. We got that clinched. Now we're just hoping to hold on to the Atlantic League, because the Bruins and the Maple Leafs have been chasing us down like crazy over these past couple weeks, and now it's like we got to hold on to that and clinch the division at least to get, you know, a premier seeding. So we'll see what happens. There's still a lot of games left to be played, and there's still a lot of positions to be left to be shaken out. If the season ended today, I don't like a whole lot of the matchups for some of the teams that I follow. The Bulls have to play New Jersey. I don't like that. I think Nashville have to play LA. I don't like that. Let's see. The Avs have to play Vegas. I don't like that either. And the Sharks would have to play the Ducks, and that's where my heart's kind of divided because I like both teams. So it would be tough. Right now, I do not like a lot of the matchups right now for the postseason. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how it pans out down the stretch as these final weeks of the season go on. Let's talk a little bit about the NCAA Tournament. Let's talk about how crazy, literally crazy, this opening weekend was of the NCAA Tournament. The opening weekend of the tournament is usually the craziest. It is usually the most exciting. It is where, you know, the majority of the madness happens. But this year, oh my gosh! I mean, when I said the tournament was wide open, I wasn't expecting this. I mean, this has been absolutely insane. The South region, none of the top 4 seeds are left. It is your highest seed now is 5th seed Kentucky, and then you've got a 7, a 9, and an 11. The West now, again, your highest seed is Michigan, the 3, and you've got a 4, a 7, and 9. So no 1 or 2 there with Xavier and Carolina gone. In the East, the East is still your heaviest, you know, your strongest region overall, because you've got a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 5. So the East region of Boston is going to be fun to watch. And then the Midwest, you still got a 1, a 2, a 5, but you've got Syracuse, probably one of the more dangerous 11 seeds ever, because they were the last team in the field, but that 2-3 zone they play is absolutely scary. But this tournament has just been, I mean, my bracket, I don't want to talk about it. I mean, aside from the fact that my national title champ is still alive, Michigan, and they only are still alive because they hit a crazy buzzer beater by a freshman who was 0 of 9 before that shot to beat Houston. When I saw that, I was jumping up and down, screaming at my television. Aside from that, and crazy games, crazy comebacks. Of course, the craziest, of course, is the historic moment for the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, the Retrievers, who captivated the nation when they pretty much led wire to wire and just blew the doors off Virginia by 20 points. The run ended against Kansas State in the second round, but they hung around in that game for a while too, and it's just absolutely amazing, that game. And I never picked Virginia to go far in the tournament anyway, because I mentioned I don't like their style of play. You're not going to win a national title when you only score games in the 50s and 60s. It's just not going to happen. When I watched that game, I'm watching everyone, I'm like, are they really going to do this? And it actually happened. So great respect for UMBC, the job that they did, and they hung around with Kansas State for a while to the very end. So hats off literally to the Retrievers. They did an outstanding job, and we'll remember that for a long time. But now, you know, aside from that, of course, sticking with the South, Buffalo, I mean, the Bulls, what they did to Arizona, blowing the doors off of them in the first round by 21 with that 15 of 33-point shooting game, absolutely stunning, quite impressive. That killed one of my Final Four right then and there. but then they proceed to lose by 20 to Kentucky, but it's Kentucky. We know Kentucky's really good. So hats off to Buffalo as well. How about Loyola? I mean, my gosh. I had the Ramblers winning the first game against Miami. I did not yet have them making it to the Sweet 16, but the Missouri Valley representing. I mean, the Ramblers have been winning in impressive, thrilling fashion. The buzzer-beating 3 to beat Miami, and then the putback with like 15 seconds left to beat Tennessee. Just absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible the job the Ramblers have done. Captivating the nation, and now they get a Nevada team that is playing the comeback role. The Wolfpack, first coming back from 14 down to beat Texas in overtime, stunningly, and then coming back from 22 down to beat Cincinnati with an just absolutely stunning 32-8 stretch over the final few minutes of the game. Absolutely crazy. It's why my handle on Twitter right now is hashtag 2018 NCAA Tourney is cray cray. That's one of the major reasons. I mean, it is just absolutely stunning. The Wolfpack, they have shooters. I mean, they have good guards. They have guys that can shoot. The Martin brothers, Kendall Stevens, who's a Purdue transfer, is killing it. I mean, this team can score. They don't quit and they don't give up. So, again, kudos to Nevada. True story, though. In one of my brackets, and actually they posted this stat on SportsCenter, they said that 1% of brackets actually had a Loyola Nevada Sweet 16. This bracket right here, Road Warriors, Loyola and Nevada in the Sweet 16. So based on their road records. So I actually had it, and actually that has Nevada winning the whole thing. I don't know if that's going to happen, probably not. But it would certainly be something if it did. So, yeah, kudos to Nevada. West region, Florida State getting their revenge, knocking off Xavier. I mean, that was definitely an impressive thing, too. Last year when Florida State was a high seed and Xavier was an 11, and Xavier made that deep run, and then they just thrashed Florida State in the second round. Well, now Florida State turned around and got their revenge and took out the 1 seed in Xavier. So kudos to the Seminoles. They get Gonzaga next, and while Gonzaga hasn't looked exactly pretty over the first two games, Gonzaga's experienced. They're a gritty team. Mark Few knows how to prepare them. They scraped by against UNC Greensboro and then grinded one out against Ohio State, winning by 6. But this team can score. They can run up and down the floor with you. So, again, kudos to Gonzaga for getting back to the Sweet 16 as well, and Michigan. I mean, I'm watching that Houston game. I was worried. I mean, I was honestly worried about Michigan, but Jordan Poole, man, what a shot that he hit to win that game with a guy in his face, no less. I mean, right in his grill, and he's just calmly just threw it up there and bang. I mean, just put it in. So great job for Michigan. But now they get a Texas A&M team that just blew the doors off of North Carolina, just completely overwhelmed the Tar Heels. Tough for me to watch that one. But A&M clearly showing that they are now at full strength, better team than they were earlier in the year, 86-65 over Carolina. They just completely were in control. That is going to be a very entertaining game. The West region is not going to have any short of entertainment, for sure. Same with the East region. I mean, the East region, aside from the Alabama-Virginia Tech game, which was fun to watch, the Marshall upset of Wichita State, that killed another one of my Final Four picks in Wichita State. And then the second round games, the Purdue-Butler game was fun to watch. 2 in-state rivals going back and forth. Purdue without Isaac Haas. That was fun to watch. The Texas Tech-Florida game was back and forth. But I got to say, probably whoever wins the Villanova-West Virginia game is likely going to come out of this region because, again, Villanova, very solid team coached by Jay Wright, averaging 84 points over their first 2 games in the tournament. But West Virginia can also score points, and that aggressive style of defense that they play, press Virginia, that aggressive style, it frustrates teams and forces them into turnovers. So if West Virginia can do that against Villanova, it would not shock me in the slightest if the Mountaineers advance. I think whoever wins that game is probably going to come out of the East. And the scary thing about Purdue getting Texas Tech is that Texas Tech's coach knows how to beat Purdue. Chris Beard now coaches Texas Tech, and do remember He was the coach for that one season at Little Rock when Little Rock upset Purdue in the first round a couple years ago. So he knows how to beat Purdue. And that's a scary thought. And Purdue, of course, without Haas, I mean, Matt Harms is filling in nicely, but he's not the same kind of player. I mean, yes, he's got the height, but he's not really the scorer that Haas is. He can block shots, but he's just not the scorer that he is, that dynamic scorer inside. So that matchup worries me a little bit. I still think Purdue will probably win the game, but it will not be easy for Purdue to win that game. And then the Midwest, I mean, the story here is they got through Arizona State in the first 4 in the thrilling game, then got through TCU in a thrilling game, and then took out Michigan State in another thrilling game. These low-scoring, tight games is kind of Syracuse's bread and butter forte because of that defense. 4 points over Arizona State, 60-56, 57-52 over TCU, and then 55-53 over Michigan State. Low-scoring, grinded-out, close games. So, but now they got to play Duke, and Duke knows Syracuse. Being in the same conference, the zone that Syracuse plays is very tough to prepare for and compete against because these teams haven't seen it. Well, Duke knows Syracuse. Being from the ACC, Duke knows Syracuse's style, and that's really what kind of worries me from the fact that I don't like Duke very much. But I would love to see Syracuse knock off Duke, but I don't know if it's going to happen because Duke knows how to prepare for that defense. And then Kansas, yes, they're a 1 seed, but only by number only. They really haven't looked like a number 1 seed in these first few games. They really haven't, getting by Penn by only 16 points and then Seton Hall by only 4. So that's very worrisome for me being a Kansas supporter and having to play a Clemson team that's averaging 81.5 points a game, has looked very impressive in the first 2 games, and just blew the doors off Auburn by 31. So I'm very concerned about that. But if I had to pick right now, if I had to look at the Sweet 16 right now, if I had to look at this and, pick the final, re-pick the Final 4, it's hard for me to imagine anyone but Kentucky coming out of the South. I mean, it'd be nice to see Loyola or Nevada potentially do that, but I highly doubt it unless they really make Kentucky work. So I think Kentucky's Kansas State has no chance to beat Kentucky. I'm sorry, none, 0. I know this thing's been crazy, but no chance. Because if they've shown nothing to me over the first 2 games that really shows me any reason that they're going to beat Kentucky. So no, I think Kentucky is the favorite here. If I had to rank the South, I'll go Kentucky 1. I'll go Nevada 2. I think Nevada is going to beat Loyola. I hate that because I want to support the Valley, but to me, Nevada just feels like, again, a complete balanced team that can shoot the ball, doesn't quit, doesn't back down, doesn't give up, and I think Nevada here is the second best team. And I'll say Loyola 3 and then Kansas State 4. But I think Kentucky is going to come out of the South. West, I got to stick with my pick. I got to go Michigan. I think it'll be Michigan over Gonzaga. I think, again, not to discredit the runs by Florida State or Texas A&M. And if either one an upset is more likely to happen, I'd say probably Texas A&M over Michigan is more likely to happen. So I'll say Michigan 1, and then I'll probably put Texas A&M at 2, then Gonzaga 3, and Florida State 4. Because I think it's going to come down to Michigan and Gonzaga in the end. And again, I'm going to stick with Michigan because that's my pick, but it would not shock me if Gonzaga came out of this region. It would not surprise me if Texas A&M came out of this region. It would surprise me if Florida State came out of this region having to beat 2 very strong teams back to back. In the East, I'm going to pick West Virginia. I think at this point, I like what the Mountaineers have done over the first 2 games. Granted, not exactly a murderer's row slate by beating Murray State and Marshall, but they've been in control. They, now they get a strong team in Villanova, and I think they're going to play well enough to beat them. And again, I don't want to pick Villanova because I don't like them. But I'll say West Virginia, and I'll put them up against Purdue. I think Purdue's going to barely scrape by Texas Tech, but in the end, I think West Virginia then will just, again, pressure Purdue overwhelm them, make them force their guards forced into turnovers with no Haas inside. That'll hurt. That's where West Virginia will exploit them. So I like the Mountaineers to come out of the East. And in the Midwest, as much as I would love to pick Kansas here playing in Omaha, I have a dreadful feeling that Kansas is going to lose to Clemson. It just feels like the way that Clemson now is riding this momentum and playing so well. I feel like this is a bad matchup for the Jayhawks. So I feel like it's going to come down to Clemson and Duke. And as much as I hate to say it, I feel like Duke's going to get to the Final Four. All these upsets to me are setting up this tournament to have Duke maybe win this whole thing, or Kentucky. So if I had to re-pick and revamp the Final Four, I'd have Kentucky, Michigan, West Virginia, and Duke. That would be the new Final Four that I'd have. But I'd still pick Michigan to win it all over West Virginia. That's because I don't like Kentucky or Duke. That's how I do it. So yeah, crazy March Madness, crazy tournament. Absolutely cray-cray in every sense of the word. Just absolutely nuts. Man who has points in the last 10 meetings straight up with the Capitals. He did not register a shot on goal. All right, a couple more stories here. I got to see a movie in theaters a couple weeks ago. Actually, it was back on the 2nd of March. So, yeah, about 3 weeks ago now, that I've been wanting to see ever since I saw the trailer come out. A movie that is shattering records at the box office countlessly. And I got to say, I was hooked and fixated on it the whole time. Black Panther is one of the best Marvel movies ever made. It is one of the best superhero movies ever made. It is just an intense, scintillating movie. It really is. If you guys have not seen, you need to see. I mean, I'm going to say it straight up right here. You have the Spiky Dash recommendation. You need to see Black Panther. It is absolutely outstanding. The story, the characters, the action, all leading up to the big finale moment. It is gripping. I mean, my eyes are fixed to the screen. There was never a moment of boredom for me. I mean, it was absolutely so intense. The cast does a great job, everything. And I don't really go to a whole lot of the Marvel movies. Aside from Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm not really deep into them. Like, I don't see the Avengers movies. I don't see Captain America or Thor, or what have you with all those, or Iron Man's. I don't see those. But I was just, but I liked Black Panther's character so much after, seeing the trailers in Civil War. I liked his character so much. I'm like, whoa. And then I hear he's getting a movie. I'm like, okay, I got to see that. So I even got, before Disney Infinity died off, I even got the little the character here. So I thought he was really, really neat. So yeah, I got that too. So I could tell that I really wanted to see the movie. But yeah, so very, very awesome film. I highly, highly recommend it. I gave it a 5-star, and I don't do that for movies very often. In fact, I think it ended up right outside my top 20 on my most favorite movies of all time that I've watched. So that's high praise. So well deserved. Great job by Marvel. Great job by everybody involved with the film, the directors, the staff, the cast, everybody. Anybody involved with that film did an outstanding job, and it is to me a must see, a highly recommended movie for you guys. Sports related stuff. More sports-related stuff besides the Bolts and the March Madness. High school basketball is winding down here in our state of Indiana. They'll be doing the state finals actually this weekend. Hard to believe that it was 1 year ago that I was heading to Bankers Life Fieldhouse myself and with my buddy Nate for the state final game for Twin Lakes in the 3A state final against Indy Crispus Attucks, and what a game that was. We were up and they were up. It was we were up and there was back and forth all along, all the way down to the final play where unfortunately Attucks hit a shot with 1.5 seconds left to win the game and the title. It was tough. tough pill to swallow, but I always love going back to my old high school and getting a chance to see them compete, whether it's regular season, whether it's a tournament. I always like to get back there and see it because it brings back memories for me. You know, I was a 4-year manager. Actually, it was 2 years in middle school, and I was a 4-year manager in high school for the basketball team. And I tell you what, I would not trade those 4 years for anything. I mean, because you are a part of the team. You are, you're doing work for the team. You're providing them, assistance and water and towels and what have you, and all the stuff there. So but you are a part of the team. You're an important part of, and you are just as much invested in how well the team does as the players and the coaches are. And me being a diehard sports fan, I enjoyed the job aspect of it. I enjoyed, the cheers, the cheering sessions coming to the games. I enjoyed, going to all these really cool Indiana high school gyms and just being a part of all that. Gaining respect for these places. It made me appreciate high school basketball in the state of Indiana a lot more. And going to Bankers Life last year and being a part of seeing the state finals, that was also a very surreal, once in a lifetime cool experience for me that hopefully I get to replicate with here in Logansport in my hometown at some point as well. I'd love to see the Berries make the state finals as well, but hasn't happened yet, but hopefully it will. So I decided, as the term was going on with sectional play, I would go up to my old high school and see, the 3A sectional going on. And then that Saturday night, Twin Lakes was actually in the sectional final against Calumet, and they won that sectional like several years in a row. And actually before, 05 was the last time they'd done it until like 09 or 10. And then they had a string of like 5 straight sectional titles or 4 straight, something like that. And I think they were going for a 5th straight this year. And it didn't happen, unfortunately, but not because Calumet was a better team. Calumet was gifted that sectional. They were by the officials. That crew was one of the worst that I've ever seen personally in my entire life. Even the fans agreed. I didn't have to say a word. And normally when officials screw up at games, I'm pretty vocal. I mean, I will say you suck. I will scream. I will say I don't agree with the call. I will be frustrated. But I didn't have to say anything. I kept my composure because the fans around me were doing that for me. They were showing their frustration already. So they could say, everything. So yeah, it was not a fun night. It was nice to see everybody again. It was nice to see, some of the coaches, and Coach Adams, who I had a great, workmanlike relationship with, and a friendship that I hope still, is retained to this day. He said, I talked to him outside the locker room after the game, and he said, too bad we couldn't get it, sorry we couldn't get it done for you. And I said, well, it is what it is, but I kept my composure. I didn't say a word to the refs. So I think he at least got a chuckle out of that, because he knows how fiery I am. But and then as I left, I couldn't help but, stand outside the Wall of Fame last case and look in there, and sure enough, there's our 2005 Hoosier Conference title picture and our sectional trophy picture there, and the picture of the team, and there I am in the back, and it just the memories just come flooding back. So I'm always thankful, for my time growing up in Monticello. I'm always thankful for Twin Lakes, for the education they gave me, and for being a part of that, and I'm always grateful for everything I did there. So it's always nice to come back and see everybody that I know, and relive those memories while watching the current generation compete. So always a good time. But aside from memories of that, tomorrow, I'm also headed to Fort Wayne for the first time this season, finally. Through all the because through all my car troubles and other struggles and financial struggles for a time and all this, I really have not had a chance this year to go to a lot of events. I really haven't had a chance to, I went to a lot of games locally here with Logan Sport and Twin Lakes, but I really get a chance to go to anything outside of that because of my issues. But now I'm finding now that I have a vehicle again, that is finally fully registered and insured. I finally have a chance to go to Fort Wayne and hopefully later to Indy this year for a Pacer game, because I always try to get to one Comet game and one Pacer game at the very least every year, because I like seeing those teams, especially when they're doing well, and both teams are doing very well this season, with the Pacers being fourth in the Eastern Conference and the Comets already clinching a playoff berth again. They're right there in the Central Division battling with their nemesis from Toledo again. So it's always fun to get up there. And I actually have a pretty good track record of going to games when I'm there. When I'm in attendance at a Comet game, the Comets are 5-1-2. And then when I go to a Pacer game, I've yet to see a loss, 7-0. So call it coincidence, call it luck, call it whatever you want to call it. But I have a pretty good track record. So but actually, what makes tomorrow night, when I'm going to Fort Wayne to see the Comets play Kalamazoo, what makes that so exciting, not only for me, is my 9th Comet game lifetime, but I'm taking one of my coworkers and his fiance to their first hockey game ever, you guys, ever. And it is going to be, they've been so excited for, ever since I talked to them about doing this and making it happen. And so I've been sharing hockey things with them. I'm sharing them some links and some different things. Hey, there's the Bolts. Still no score in the first. So a lot of things there. So I'm really just looking forward to this. I'm sharing different things with them about different terms and the penalties, the rules, this and that, and just getting them excited for tomorrow. So it's going to be a great day. I win or lose, I think we're going to have a good time. It's always a fun time at the Coliseum. The Jungle is a great atmosphere to see a game in Fort Wayne. So I'm much looking forward to it, and I can't wait for them to enjoy this first experience. You really don't. Watching a hockey game on TV, it's nice. It's a nice thing, but until you experience it live, you don't really know how amazing the game is. So. Now, I have yet personally to go to an AHL game. That's my next step. I would love to see an AHL game. The only downside, my favorite teams are so far away, but maybe if they come to a game close like in Columbus or Nashville or Chicago, something like that, then maybe. But my teams are so far away that I follow, Tampa, Pittsburgh, Anaheim, San Jose, Colorado, and Nashville. Nashville is probably the closest to me. So, because I went there for All-Star Weekend, but so it'd be nice. It'd be nice to see a game at least, some point in my life. But for now, I'm enjoying watching, my teams, from afar, if you will. In terms of Tampa Bay, we call ourselves the Distant Thunder, for us who are far away from the Tampa Bay area. So, yeah, but gosh, it's going to be so exciting tomorrow. I can't wait for the game. Final story, you guys, a little more, again, personal level for me, but I've been talking to you guys about this ever since I was dealing with the issues a couple months ago when it came to my church situation, and how I was really dealing with some tough issues at my church in Monticello that I was going to, and I was, and I had been betrayed and trust broken toward me so many times that it was not worthwhile for me to continue to attend there. I needed to find a new place. I needed to branch out. I needed to switch, and I've been scouting Revolution Community Church here in Logansport for a very long time. I'd kind of been scouting it from afar. And I had really been intrigued by what I saw and what I heard about it. And everyone was telling me all these great things. So I really wanted to try it out and become a part of it. And and after my first week there, after I had made my debut there, I told, all my friends, yeah, I like this. It's a different style. It's short, but it's laid back. It's, you can just come as you are. You can enjoy the worship. The worship short, but the message hits hard. It's this suits my style more. This suits me better. This is where I'm comfortable. There's no pressure on me, no burdens, no, none of that, no membership, no dress code. This is where I feel comfortable, loved, accepted. This is where I, respected. This is where I need to be. And then I started bringing my friends, and, and Matt came, you guys have seen Matt on other shows, and Nate. And so they started coming, and then Nate's wife started coming a couple weeks ago. And Matt came the one time, and his friend Troy also came, and they liked it, but they're also very hooked on their church in Delphi, which is totally fine. But Nate and Sarah, especially Nate, started to get really hooked when the third week that I came and the second week he was there was a reveal and a prayer night at our new building. We're currently in the building next to Aaron's, a little strip mall in Cass Plaza, but eventually we're moving to the old Staples building here in Logan. And we had a night where we would, come out and look at the floor plan and the design for the building. And we even got a chance to scout it out, look at where everything was going to go. You got a chance, and we all got a chance to write Bible verses on the walls. And so that was really cool. But Nate then gave me a phone call about, a couple days after that event. And he said, you know what, I've talked over with Sarah, and, I made the comment to you. I said that, from where you're at, you're in the right place. You're in the right church. But it's not like we want to be cheating on First Assembly in Delphi where we're going. But I want to be part of what the future holds for Revolution. I've always told you that I want to be somewhere where I can get involved. I want to be somewhere, and after seeing what is to come, I want to say I was a part of that. I want to be a part of that, literally that revolution. I want to be a part of what is to come. And I couldn't have been more thrilled. And not just because, we're best friends of 23 years, and Nate even told me, he said, it's not just because you're going there. If it was, I would have stayed with you at Faith a long time ago, even after I left. So, so I can totally, I'm so glad. And these past few weeks have had a great series called 7 Sayings of the Cross, and it's hit on so many different, amazing things, and leading up to Easter Sunday. It's a clean hit. Sagan's trying to get out of the way, but then it's the stumble. But let's do it himself. Or done an owie. I think he did that. But Tyler Sagan landed on Sunday. So the bottom line is, I think all three of us really feel like, we've found a place to be grounded. And that's really what I needed in the end, and I firmly believe that God led me out of a bad situation that I needed to get away from, and I needed to become grounded here in my hometown, and that I needed to be, in a more, more laid back style, but still just as powerful worship, and just be surrounded by people who just truly, love him, serve him, worship him, and, and just it's everything. You feel the energy in the gathering. You feel that energy. You feel that intensity. You feel the spirit there around you. And I felt it in a way that I never have before. I'm singing songs that I've sang in the past that I've never heard before in that way, or sang before like that. It's a completely different way. And that's Revolution's motto, is do church different. And it is, but it's still powerful on my mind, on my soul, on my heart. It is hitting me in any way that I could not have imagined was possible. So I cannot I cannot thank Revolution enough, the fellow brothers and sisters. I cannot thank Pastor Anthony enough for being open to me and having us in there and just I feel welcome and I feel home there. I really do. And I want to be a part just as much as Nate wants to be a part of that church's future. I do as well. And I'm so glad that I was able to find a spot there. And that just, I love every single minute of it. And I'm so thrilled that I can finally, call a church here in Logansport home. I'm so glad. All right, guys, that is it for tonight. I got a lot of hockey to watch as well. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys so much. You guys don't even know. I am, there's so much ahead to come with, not just sports, but with the winding down of March Madness, baseball kicking off here pretty soon. And of course, with MLP, with season 8, bringing this Saturday, Winnie City coming up here in a few weeks. There is so much excitement to come. I appreciate all the support, all the likes, the views. I appreciate all that so much. And again, keep spreading the word. Please subscribe, give it a thumbs up if you like. Share your thoughts on any of these topics that you want. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what's to come in season 8 or what have you. So thank you guys so much again for tuning in. Also, one more thing, I will be researching more on Twitch here in probably the weeks to come. Again, I mentioned about the Fur Fanatic, the mascot related podcast I'm going to be doing on that as well. I'm going to be researching that a little more here the next couple of weeks, see if I can get that at least, see how it gets started and off the ground and all that, to start that project on Twitch here in a few weeks. Again, probably will be around mid-April after the tournament and Winnie City are over. So just stay tuned for that as well. And again, I'll continue to post updates as well on Twitter as well. Again, at Chris_Spiky-. So thank you guys again so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. And you all have a wonderful Tuesday night. And we will see you probably here in around early April or so for the next episode 16 of According to Spiky-. Spiky-, out, and God bless all of you. Have a great night.